So, hello everyone. Thank you for being here. I will start, I guess, with a quick introduction of myself. Thank you, Max, for the introduction. My name is Anderson. I'm kind of a staff plus engineer right now. I've been doing wearing several hats in the last years. I've been working in the field since the 2000s. I'm a graduated in computer engineer in Brazil. Did a lot of things in the different industries, automotive, printers. And in the last years, I've been working more with web development, let's say. Professionally with Elixir since 2018. At Árvore, we are going to talk about it in a bit. And currently I'm working at Boulevard. It's a company in the US. We have a platform for booking healthcare and management of staff. But this talk today is about the time I spent at Árvore and growing and working with Elixir during 8 years. In Brazil, in an educational sector. I guess this is a small introduction of what I'm going to talk. And talk about a bit Árvore. Árvore is a company in Brazil founded in 2013, 14. And basically, we provide a solution for schools designed to equip students for the challenges by leveraging reading, social emotional resources, and AI-powered tools. So right now, students in Brazil that has access to Árvore, they have access to more or less 170,000 books for their education and leisure. And by this year, 1 out of 10 students in Brazil has access to Árvore. That means in Brazil, considering public and private schools, we have in the last years a number of more or less 40 million students. So that means we are present in schools and we can reach more or less 4 million students in Brazil. And it's pretty nice to see students having a chance to read books and learn, and everything powered by Elixir. Okay, so the agenda today, I want to bring to you a little bit of what we were doing at Árvore along these last years. So the idea is to give you a kind of a timeline of our code base, what we did, what tools we used, and also bring you and show you some pain points we had along the way. And finally, talk about some recommendations or takeaways from my perspective. And just a small disclaimer, when you see this my avatar, it's my personal opinion. It doesn't really reflect the opinion of the whole engineering at Árvore. And this small post-it is something that at some point the subject gave us some pain, and we will eventually talk about it. Okay. And I guess one of the questions that normally people ask and want to know is why we chose Elixir. And I guess everyone here maybe probably was questioned about this if you are using Elixir. The last talk also brought this as well, why they use Elixir. And initially, Árvore started as a Rails application, but eventually we migrated to Elixir. And here are some facts that I think were important when we decided to do this migration, let's say. When I started at Árvore, we were already using Elixir, so part of the decisions were made while I was not there, but I guess most of them reflect what I thought as well. One of the things, I guess it's explicitness. We have that code is easier to understand and learn. It's easier to maintain. There's less information hiding. And we are talking here like comparing a little bit with Rails. That was what we were using at the time. Performance. Since the beginning, I guess, we have seen like lots of benchmarks, like people doing blog posts, telling like how Elixir or Phoenix or the Beam is like performant. And so we believe that with the better latency, like the better performance, we would also have like some economy regarding like infrastructure, using less servers, for example. And you can see like BBC used like a lot of servers, and then when they changed, they were able like to use less machines. So this was also something that we were thinking. And of course, the idea of the functional paradigm, I guess this give us like, depends on each person, right? But I guess the language concepts are clear and concise. And the pipe way of doing things for me was something that really clicked to me. At that time, I was working, before working with Elixir, I was working with Java, Rails, and I remember doing like a project where we had like some state, some data, and this data was like going through several steps in a pipeline. And every step there were like some changes in state, some side effects, and that way of creating that application was super. I guess I was really I really liked that way of thinking. So this is like a more personal view. And of course, the community. I guess since the beginning, we had available like awesome docs, tooling. It's pretty important. We always had great people behind the tech, building and making sure that everything was working. So yeah, I guess those were like some of the whys we migrated to Elixir. So yeah, now I'm going to talk some of the main points that were happening along the years, just so you to have an idea of our numbers. So by 2019, we were like a relatively small company in Brazil. We had like 150K students with access to Árvore. And then the pandemic came 2020, and then we had like a surge. This because, of course, like the schools, they were shut down for some time, and students needed to read, to do their homework. And then schools started like to look for, to look for alternatives. And Árvore was like something that was like, okay, this is what we need. This solution is very good for what we need right now. So we had this surge in customers. And by 2025, we are like with 4 million students, and we are still growing. So yeah, in 2016, it was like first commit on the project. We have like this monolith, an Elixir Phoenix. And we started, at that time it was like Phoenix 1.2 and Elixir 1.3, if I'm not wrong. And if you remember, I guess in this version of Phoenix, when you scaffolding your project, these were more or less like the structure of the folders or the organization of the code. It was like pretty standard with the models, views, controllers. If I remember, like in the examples, you had like maybe business logic, a little bit in the controller, a little bit in the model. So this was the basic scaffolding of the project at the time. If I'm wrong, please correct me. We will talk about this a little bit later. In 2016, we started this project, but around 2017, it was in production. Because remember, we had like a Rails application. We started like to migrate some stuff. And in 2017, we put in production just like a small setup, like we were like running in a EC2 instance, in Docker, pretty standard setup. We didn't have like a lot of traffic at that time. And so we had at that time like two main applications, the Phoenix one and the Rails running the reader. And we also like were using Quantum for cron jobs. We had a search feature for the books with Elasticsearch using the Rex. Since the beginning, we also created our API in GraphQL. So at that time, it was Absinthe 1.3. And also in 2017, we bumped Phoenix to 1.3. And yeah, just like a small detail about GraphQL. At the time, we were not using our Phoenix application fully. Let's say we didn't have like the pages being rendered by Phoenix. We just were using it as a more like a backend application because we had like our clients in React and React Native. And Phoenix 1.3 brought the idea of the context. I remember there were a lot of blog posts and people talking about this at that time. And context, if you remember, was a different way to organize your code. So thinking more about like contexts in the more like a domain-driven design, let's say, where you would organize your business logic in a different folder, and then you separate your web layer in another folder. And that was super cool, actually. And in 2018, that's when I joined Árvore. It's 8 years, but yeah, 8 years, but for me, like 6. And I was new to Elixir. I was new to the functional paradigm. But I was really excited to learn. As I said, like this idea of the functional was, for me, was super interesting. And at that time, actually, we were 3 backenders. One of them was our CTO, and only he was like really familiar with Elixir. So you can imagine then, like myself, my colleagues, like working, adding features and features and features, and of course, like growing our application. We added in 2018, like integration with FTP, due it out to our publishers to like push us books, let's say. S3, we were growing our GraphQL API. And then just for curiosity, one of the first bugs I had to deal with was when we decided like to spin up another instance of our application. Like I said, we're using like EC2, like running Docker, and we just decided, okay, let's spin up another EC2, like a small one. Just like let's copy how we do with the other one, with like a load balancer. It looks like a regular setup. But suddenly users were getting logged out. So user would like log in, and the next request, he would be logged out. And yeah, we were using like JSON web tokens for the graphical API as well. And the thing is, the containers or the servers, they had like totally different date times. By the time like we spin up the server, I don't know if we didn't configure it well. But the thing is, like the token created in one server, in the next request wasn't valid in the other. And then we automatically, the client would automatically invalidate the token. So the fix was to sync the date and time. So yeah, just like small parentheses, like the first bug, it wasn't even related to our application at all. By 2019, we were using Quantum to execute some cron jobs, but we needed like some of them needed to be executed just once or uniquely fashion. And yeah, we were using Quantum, but we were not clustering, so there was no way of Quantum to know that one job was executing. So if we had like 2 or more instances, the same job would be executed at the same time. So just to not have a lot of work around this, we just decided, okay, let's deploy a new container with just like the current jobs we want to enable. And with no HTTP access, it was be like HTTP access, no external access, just like a instance running the business logic for the jobs. And this also, I guess, gave us a little bit of problem later on. But we were focused on delivering like the features that we needed at that time. So it was like a simple solution. We decided to go with it. We are also using ads for caching, local caching. It was local to each deployment. We were using it to like store like rankings of readings, and it was really quick, and it was working perfectly. Yeah, I thought about like all of this, and I was going to do a small joke with Sasha, but he's here, so he's not here, so he won't throw any books at my head. And also in this year, we merged with another company, so our team got bigger, and these new colleagues, workmates, we had like another product in another stack, so they were not familiar with Elixir at all. So we needed to do onboarding, train everyone. We created like our second service, small one, and we also moved to we moved to Phoenix 1.4. And then in 2020, the pandemic, as we saw, we introduced Open, the open source version. We wanted to do like some async jobs. And we also started using Ex Machina, like a library to create like factories for testing. This also we're going to talk about. I don't know, maybe you can imagine, I don't know what if you use, but later on let me know if you had some problems with that, or if you like it to use. As I said, like we had a surge at this year, so instead of giving more time to work like on tech debt or improving a little bit here and there, this surge made us like, okay, we need like to still focus on some features and improvements on some of them. 2021, we migrated to Phoenix 1.5, and at that time, remember, we started with Absinthe in 2017, and 4 years later, we were still using the same version of Absinthe. So at that time, Absinthe was in 1.6, and this was our first attempt to migrate. And I said attempt because we were not able to do at that time. And I will show you why in a bit. And also in 2022 was like a year that we just improved our quality checks. And of course, always adding features. And as you can see, like along the years, we like bumped Phoenix in a pace good. Like every time Phoenix would be released, we would like bump the version, and it was always pretty simple and easy. We had always like a good documentation telling how to do this upgrade. And finally, in 2023, we removed Quantum, and we started like using only Oban, also for cron jobs. It was like a good idea, since we were not like clustering our application. And finally, in last year, we were able like to migrate Absinthe to Absinthe 1.7. And the thing is, the problem we had was that, for example, take a look at that code. As you can see, this query collection ID can be null, right? But our API in backend, actually this argument was non-null. But Absinthe, since I guess 1.6, didn't enforce this check. So clients could like execute this query, and our GraphQL would be like happy, and we would have no problems. But I guess with Absinthe 1.6, they fixed that, and then this query started to fail, for example. So we had like to first go on our clients, change we had like to go query by query, check what query was wrong, and then just then we would able to change the backend. So that's why we had like that first attempt. We try it didn't work. Okay, let's give it more time, and then finally here we took the time to fix that. Okay. Also, last year, we were always trying to keep our code coverage in a good level. And along the years, we tried like a lot, like different approaches to testing. Like we had like a mix of like real small unit tests and controller tests, or even like the GraphQL, like the whole stack test. And we decided like to use Mimic and Mox. These are two testing libraries. I guess Mox like is pretty known in the community. It's good because you can create like concurrent mocks. It's based on behaviors. So if you have like if you use like behavior for something, maybe this is like a good library to use. And we also chose to use Mimic. It also you can also like do concurrent with it, and it's pretty easy to use. Pretty used to like to mock quickly something in your code. And yeah, by the end of 2024, last year, we started to use like SQS as well with Broadway. It was working perfectly, just for some of our flows. We wanted like to use like these events. Okay. So while I was doing this presentation, I was a bit curious about how our code base like evolved over this time, to see if I could find some correlation between like what we were building and how much code we were like adding to the project. But actually, I couldn't find any correlation, I guess. It doesn't really mean that if you're adding features, you're adding like X number of lines. But as you can see, like along the years, we like kept growing in like a constant pace, maybe. I just added those like straight lines. I guess like looking at the graph, we can see that in those 3 periods, I guess were the most intensive, let's say, where the slope is, there's like a higher rate of lines of code being added to the project. Yeah, and a nice thing is that in the last 4 or 5 years, I guess our customer base grew like by 20 times. And yeah, this also didn't change, like having more customers or more features. We were always able to like to keep a constant pace. And then I haven't added here like the number of how big is our team, but we started like with 3 people by 2018. And right now we were around 20-ish, between like mixture of backend and front end. We do not do like full stack. And just like to breathe a little bit, I'm very happy like to be here and to talk about this use case. I'm happy to see like other people, like other industries using Elixir, and working to a company that has a mission regarding like improving the education is super give me happiness. And yeah, we are always looking for talents. So if you happen to like education, want to like talk to our people, just visit the website, and we are always looking for talents as well. Okay. So let's talk a little bit about some of the pain points I was talking earlier. And also this goes like some recommendations or takeaways of what, in my point, I saw at Árvore. Of course, not everything is like pain. These are like just like some things that I saw during this time. And I guess it will help you or maybe give you some insights. So last year we started to, well, as you can imagine, like this project has 8 years, 9 years already. So it's like an old project. We have like a lot of legacy code. And we started with Phoenix 1.2, where the folder organization was more simple. And as we were adding like features, more people coming in, and we didn't kind of have like a standard on how to, you know, create a new feature or how to organize the code. So we ended up like with multiple schemas to the same table, for example. So let's say we have like an accounts context, and you have like the users table and a user schema, and that's okay, pretty cool. And then now we wanted like to create a new gaming context, for example. And in this context, we had like a relationship with the user because maybe we need to get the name of the user or some data. And then instead of respecting like the public interface of the account's context or domain, we kind of created like a cross relationship with the schema in the other context. So, and you can imagine like mixing the model folder of the old Phoenix with the new like context folders and doing this like all relationships. And at the end, like we were having a hard time sometimes to, for example, creating like the setup of our tests. So let's say for this test, you need like to have like a user with this state and then other entities on the database. And suddenly, if you know Ex Machina is like a simple way to create like a factory for your schemas or entities. And suddenly we had like to create different factories for the same entities, let's say. So, yeah, so this was giving us like a bit of trouble while doing test setup. So, I guess what we learn here is if you know that your project is starting to grow and it will have like a lot of contacts maybe, it's good like to plan or to have like standard on how to organize your code, how to create your context and maybe have like a clear definition of where are your interfaces inside your application. I guess someone asked on the Ash presentation something like that as well. Like, there's not right or wrong here. Like, you have like to create those fences, let's say, and try to keep them separated. That's how I would see nowadays this. Regarding performance, remember when I said that let's deploy a container for the cron jobs. And yeah, that's perfectly okay. I guess everybody does that. But the thing that gave us some problem was that we had now two different deployments. So we had like I remember we had like to create like 2 different Docker images, just like with different environments or something like that. I don't remember very well. But at some time, like we did like a new version, and one of the pods didn't fail to the deploy. So it rolled back to the latest version. And we didn't see that, we didn't catch that. And then we were running in production 2 different codes. And then we were like seeing some strange behavior, and then we like, oh, okay, like we are running like a node code on these pods, and that's why I brought this kind of like having like depending on how you're organizing your deploy your applications, but plan as well how you do that and make sure you have like the right code running in production. And also keeping like libraries up to date. Like I guess it's better to spend some time like making sure you're always, as you can of course, running like more recent versions. Because for us this was like a bad something like bad. We had like to work with that, like talking about Absinthe, for example. yeah, and nowadays we have like a lot of tools for that. We have the Panda bot on GitHub. We have like, even in the command line, we have like mix X outdated, I guess. And you have like, you can add this to your CI pipeline. So you can make sure that you are not like using like more recent versions. And we added this to our pipeline as well, like to give us like insights that we were using like an older version. Yeah, and then just some recap for today. I guess these were some of the things I would like to highlight. And as you can see, we can go pretty far with the available tools we have today. So it's not that at Árvore we use like just like regular things, but we have our business cases, business code. But as you can see, like our ecosystem has very nice tools and libraries, and yeah, you can go pretty far with that. It's not like something very complex. Yeah, and I'm very happy that we at Árvore, probably we were one of the first in the educational sector in Brazil, like using Elixir. And we are pretty proud that we are still using it. So I guess that's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Anderson. We have a couple questions.
Sure.
Was it difficult to grow the team with Elixir and non-Elixir developers?
Yeah, it was at the beginning, I guess. When we merged to this other company already had a product, and it was based on PHP. And at their side, they was using like different versions or different frameworks. I remember that it was okay. It wasn't like that hard, but it took us some time like to onboard everyone. But as I said, like they were like one full stack, two backenders. The backenders like were pretty quick in learning Elixir and doing features. But we had like to make sure, of course, to have like good tests to make sure like that we wouldn't like break anything. We were adding a lot of code at the time, but it was more or less okay, I would say.
All right, we've got one more question. Did you encounter any interesting challenges regarding test performance or compile times, etc.?
We never actually did anything like to improve testing time, like compilation times. I guess that wasn't really a problem to us. Like our pipeline, like we break the test, like in parallel, we were parallelizing our tests. So I guess it took us 2 minutes, maybe a little less, to run all tests. And I had the feeling that, you know, like just by going from Elixir 1.3, 4, 5, and everything, and of course, like our machines were improving as well. So I guess that was enough, just like to have like this improvements in compilation times. Yeah.